Hook him up. You can take him away if you want.
I'll leave that to the chief.
All right. Okay, you guys all set? Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. We're about to resume our meeting. We began this evening at 6 p.m. Mr. Barros was absent for the opening of the meeting, duly noted. He attends every week at 6 when we have an executive session to make sure we do it right. But I can assure you that I did it correctly, okay? I know why. I'm not going to reveal that. As we begin tonight, if we could, there have been several members of the community who have passed, but really fresh. Yesterday morning, or this morning, I guess, depending on how you look at the clock, Dan Goodchild has passed away due to a motor vehicle accident. Chief, what was that, about 5:30 in the morning? Yes, was it this morning or yesterday morning? Yesterday morning. Yeah. So Dan served the town several years ago as a member of the finance committee. So, and I saw that another gentleman's wife, I think her name was Bert, passed away this week. So we could just take a moment of silence for a lot of these folks who have passed this week that have served the town well, and we keep their family and friends in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, moving right along. Next up, we have the announcements. Mrs. Winslow.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have Wareham's Coffee Hour again this Thursday at 9 a.m. Brought to you courtesy of our very own Mr. Bob White. The guest this week will be Claire Smith, who is the candidate for the moderator position. And I don't think I have any other announcements today. Mr. Teitelbaum?
No announcements this evening, thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
No announcements, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Wow. That's unusual.
I know. We're going to move this
Very
meeting
unusual.
right along.
We are, because we have some important business to deal with. Okay.
Mr. Bowen? Okay. That's it.
Would anyone like to address the board this evening? Ma'am? I saw the hand go up and down real quick. Are you up or not? Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. It was brought to my attention this week about two incidents with laterals on the street. I think I need to show you this picture. This woman that does her grass, she's 81 years old, was brought to my attention. We got sent a letter, and they wanted us to describe where we wanted the laterals in front of the homes. She discovered later that this lateral was not where she wanted it. As you see, she's invested years of doing this lawn.
Where is that without a street number?
Avenue A. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath.
Sorry.
She brought to my attention, I mean, she's struggling, she's retired, she's an RN, that this is going to be hard for her because she is actually at least 100 feet or more from the road. So it's going to be costly to her. And where they put the lateral, I guess where the house is, actually the piping, the sewage piping that comes out of your roof, they put it along that route. But the thing is she wanted it to go along her bushes, and actually her cesspools about maybe 20 feet away from her house. So she wouldn't have to dig down the middle of her lawn to put piping. She could have gone the other side in where her bushes are, and it wouldn't have been so much to tear up. But as it is now, not only is it going to be costly because she's so far away from the road, but now she has to tear into her lawn that she's worked years and years to get it this way. Another incident came up on Oakdale Street, I believe. The woman, again, elderly. The lateral was put in the middle of her driveway. She would have to tear up her driveway to do the line that she needs to do.
Same street.
Different street
Street.
in Oakdale.
Do you know the street?
I want to say Oakdale Street.
Okay.
Okay, it's like it's not following any pattern that where they had a diagram where it should be, or where the stack is of the house. There's never been any rules or anything, and yet this is being done, and it's costing these people that are 80 years old a lot of money. Another thing is it seems that rules have changed as far as connection, where it could cost the homeowner more money to hire somebody. They need 2 inspections. I don't understand. The problems haven't been with the people connecting. The problems have been with the construction that has been put down. That seems to be the problem. And now it seems like rules have changed, and why do we
rules?
need
Do you know?
why do we need 2 inspections when you're doing a connection?
Guy? In the absence of,
What question specific to 2 inspections?
yes.
Inspections are costless to the homeowner. The inspections are done by the treatment plant. So anyways, one of the inspections are to the decapping, taking the cap off because there's water issues. So we actually watch the contractor remove the cap. That's one that we've added. It actually has been in play during, I think it was Rose Point was a water. So it's nothing new. It's just we're coming back to it. In Parkwood, we had a few areas of low areas that we did caps. Other areas weren't caps. So that's one thing. It's no cost because it's done by the department, not by the contractor. And the last one is we come back at the final inspection to make sure that before we backfill, the bylaw says that all the pipe has to be seen. So we come back twice. But that's on us. That's our dime. So it doesn't. If the contractor is charging them for that, I can't.
Are they
speak to that.
charging for that? Do you know?
What it is just time consuming because now they have to be checked twice. So you have to wait for that inspection, which could take up time when they could probably do, instead of 1 connection, they could do 2 before, and now it's going to take time because they have to wait for this inspection and have to have an appointment. So that's time consuming. And why does those things need to change if those weren't issues before?
Well, it sounds to me, and you'll, Mr. Sullivan, by the way, I'm going to backstep here. Mr. Sullivan's wife had a little baby girl this morning. That should have been the first announcement. I can't believe nobody thought of that. Little Noah,
Nora.
Nora, N-O-R-A-H, mother and Mr. Sullivan are doing fine. Normally I would ask you to speak with him, but in this case, I'll ask you to catch up with Mr. Campina, if you don't mind.
Okay.
But inspections that are free and protect you in the town, I'm not seeing an issue there. To
Well,
make
the
sure that
people
when
that-
it's, and it sounds to me it's more of a matter of scheduling and timing
Exactly.
that Mr. Campina can deal with because that's his direct responsibility.
And these contractors are bonded and licensed. So, I mean, when they're
Well,
doing a job, I mean, they're supposed to know what they're doing.
I don't have
So-
a problem with us making sure it's done right, because then if you close it up and then it leaks or there's a problem, you're going to be back here yelling at me about how it leaked and nobody checked it. Right?
Okay.
All right? So let's try to do it right.
Okay.
You know what we said?
Okay.
But I think it sounds like it's more a matter of scheduling. And Ms. If you have a copy of that picture or you don't?
I don't have a copy, but her connection is
Yeah,
right
like
over
if
here.
you would
Her sister
get
is
with
over
get with Guy, give
Absolutely.
him a call tomorrow or something. Get with
Okay.
him while Mr. Sullivan is away,
Okay.
so that this doesn't get put on hold.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening.
You too. Anybody else? Seeing none. Okay.
Mr. Chair, under the consent agenda, we have the authorization to sign bills and documents. We have a bill from the Law Office of Richard Bowen dated January 30th, 2013, in the amount of $15,000. I move to approve payment.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
We have an interview and/or appointment to the Clean Water Committee and the Commission on Disability.
Mr. Mullins? I do want to apologize again. And just so folks know why you're here, typically we do these on the third Tuesday of the month. My concussion has not caused me not being able to count. Last week, Mr. Mullen sat here very patiently, and we forgot to add his sheet to the packet. So I apologize for that.
No problem.
We've tried to get these right to make sure they're always on the third Tuesday. So if you would, just introduce yourself and talk to us about your interest in serving on the Commission on Disabilities, please.
Sure, I haven't heard anything from anybody from the Disability Committee, so I've been to one meeting for the Quality Water Program there. I'm retired Coast Guard. I work over at the 6th Base Missile Warning Squadron in Sagamore. I've been over there for 18 years. I've been active with the VA hospital in Brockton. And I've done a lot of work for Sagamore and Pecassid for the town. I haven't really done anything for Wareham. I've lived here for like 30 years, so I figured start doing some stuff.
Good. What do you do at the VA?
Well, we go up there with the Air Force guys and
Ah.
hang out with them. We've had them down to site. I got tased by one of them. We got tasers over there, so I let one of the guys tase
Watch
me.
out. Watch out. Kevin's right behind you laughing. Put that taser away. Put it away. Mr. Titlebaum.
You had said that you hadn't been able to get in touch with the people,
I've
commission,
been to-
or you were looking to attend a meeting but had some difficulty?
Nobody's contacted me. I've been to one meeting for the water
Right.
program, and I'm going to the one tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anything from the Disability Committee.
Okay. But they are apparently aware. You did try some outreach to them so that they're aware that you're applying.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's not going to be a total shock if we appoint you tonight and you show up and they say, "Who are you?"
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you for your interest.
No, you're welcome.
I have a question on, basically you listed down the Clean Water Committee first, and the second choice was Commission on Disability. So are you looking basically to be on one of the two?
No, I can handle two.
Yeah, a man after my own heart.
Yeah.
Okay, on the Clean Water Committee, do you understand what they do, what
Yes.
their purpose is?
Yes.
I'm all set, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for applying.
Mrs. Winslow?
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
We need to change that on the internet application.
Anything else from the board? Mr. Mullins, I tell you it would be quick and easy, didn't I? I
Yep.
promised you that.
Yep.
It was quick and easy.
All right, thank you.
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. You have a great evening.
Point of order. Excuse me, can you tell me when they're gonna have a meeting on the disability? I've been trying to go for the longest time. They don't have none. When? People are applying for be on the disability, but
Right.
yet there's no meetings.
Well, I believe, Mr. Chair, if I can answer that the person that tends to organize them has had some health issues recently. So,
Well, I see some healthy.
So you should have another person too besides.
I see some healthy individuals on this list of active members. Maybe I'll ask tomorrow that we reach out to them to set up a time and date.
that's
that okay?
fine. But I think the person that's kind of acted as chair has been
I know.
okay. I move to appoint Daniel P. Mullins to a member of the Commission on Disability to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
And that will
Mr.
actually
Mullins,
make a full committee.
If you, is he still here or did he leave? I can't. Oh, there he is. just remember to go by the clerk's office tomorrow, and because you have to get sworn in to be a member of a committee. All right? Thank you very much for your participation.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Daniel
I would
P.
ask that any other appointments on this advisory board are held for this point in time, because I'm scheduling the review of the advisory boards coming up, and depending on what the outcome of that is, I don't want to have to appoint somebody and then have it in. We can appoint him to that commission later if the board so desires to keep the advisory councils. We'll have a bunch of openings if we do that.
What do you, there's one opening on this committee.
We're going to be reviewing the Board of Selectmen. It's not a Board of Commission, it's an advisory board to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Well, we
And
can
we're
wait
going
on
to be
that.
reviewing those before my term is up here, so that I don't hand over advisory boards to the next board. And if you all decide to keep whatever boards, then those individuals can be reappointed or appointed. And the boards that you decide not to keep, then those members can be recommended to the other openings that we have, because we have plenty of other openings in town. That's my request to the board. If y'all want to go ahead and vote, that's up to you. So I leave it up to you all.
Nope, that's fine. We can move on to the approval of the regular session meeting minutes of February 19th, 2013. I move to approve as written.
Motion made to approve. Second by Mr. Slavin. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
301.
I also move to approve the executive session meeting minutes in hold of February 5th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
301.
Alan, they're in the folder. Licenses and permits. Use of town roads by South Shore Race Management, 11 Toby Lane, Plimpton, Mass. for their My Team Triumph 5 and 10 mile road race through the town of Wareham on Sunday, June 16th, 2013 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Is there anybody here for that?
Come right on up. I can see a hand. There you go. If you would just take a moment and this is your opportunity to give your little infomercial, if you will.
5 minutes of fame. My name is Chrissy Gurney, and we are trying to organize a road race for My Team Triumph. My Team Triumph is an organization that aims to provide an athletic experience for individuals with disabilities who might not otherwise get that experience. So they participate in road races and triathlons, and they have a wonderful group of volunteers who push, pull, and tow participants. So they are a nonprofit organization, so all the money that they raise goes to buy their equipment, wheelchairs, boats for the swimming portion of triathlon, and the tag-alongs for the bikes. So this is a race that they are trying to organize to help them raise money to buy some equipment and create that really special experience in it, and it really is for the participants involved.
Great. Any questions from the board? Mr. Titlebaum?
No questions. Thank you for assisting in putting this on. Sounds like a very worthwhile endeavor.
Thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
I hope that you'll reach out to the community. I'm sure we'll all be trying to help you out as much as we can on this type of
Thank
venture.
you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow?
I don't have any questions. I wish you great luck with it.
Thank you.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the application for use of town roads by South Shore Race Management for an event on Sunday, June 16th, 2013 from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It is understood that the town will be held harmless from all liability as to damage to property or injuries to any persons.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Please let us know if there's any way that we can help you.
I will.
You know, there's a lot of event calendars around town. We have the Onset Association. We have the Wareham Village people. There's a lot of people that can help you advertise this. So anything we can do, please let us know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next
Okay.
up, we have the use of town roads by the Gleason Family YMCA, 33 Charge Pond Road, Wareham, Mass. for their 11th annual 5K road race through the village of Onset on Saturday, May 18th, 2013, from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Anybody here from Gleason? Please come up. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Joanne Watson from the Gleason YMCA. This is the 11th year that we've held this event in Onset. The purpose of the event is to raise funds for people to come to the YMCA that cannot afford to do that on their own. We have about 400 runners each year that show up for this great race. We have many local sponsors like Mark Anthony's and Shirt Shack and that help us sponsor this event so that the registration fees go directly to our scholarship fund to help kids and families go to the Y in Wareham.
Did you trip while training for the race?
Another event.
Mr. Titlebaum?
I'd like to speak in support of this and all of the other events that you have upcoming for your scholarship fund so that needy people can get involved. I've actually been, I guess, summoned by the aquatics director. I don't know if she mentioned it to you.
Yes.
So I guess I'm on your hit list as well. but the YMCA is a great facility. It does cost money to run. It costs money to be a member. And anything the town can do, anything individuals can do to help everybody have access to the YMCA, it's very important that kids have the opportunity to develop physically as well as mentally. So very much appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
I'll be watching.
Great, thank you.
Well, you could be handing out bottles at the end. Remember we did that? Last year we
Yeah,
did
the
that.
event takes about 40 volunteers to
Yeah. There's a guy in town named Larry McDonald. You call him up. I mean, he had so many volunteers down there for the triathlon, you remember? And I know he's watching, so Larry, expect a phone call. Mrs. Winslow.
Oh, I just want to say that I think it's a great event. My daughter is the poster child for YMCA child camp and all that other stuff. Nobody loves the Y more than Savannah. So I wish you great luck with this. There are a lot of kids that benefit from this, especially with the camp programs over the summer.
Thank you.
You know, and again, there's a lot of marketing stuff that's beginning to happen for the summer.
Yes.
So if you need anything or anything that we can do to help you or the office can help, Cedar can help, please let us know so that this can get advertised everywhere.
Thank you. I have applied for a CETA grant.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you very much. Hope you heal quick.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the application from the Gleason Family YMCA for an event to be held on Saturday, May 18th, 2013, from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. It is understood and agreed that the town will be held harmless from all liability as to damage to property or injuries to any persons.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Next up.
Mr. Chair, next we have the application for change of manager and new officers and directors by Dudley L. Brown, Post 2846, VFW 4 Gibbs Ballpark Road,
Gentlemen.
Onset, under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts
up.
General Laws.
You can bring as many as you'd like. Ah. I didn't know if somebody on the end there wanted to come with you. It's okay. Just introduce yourselves, if you would, please.
My name is Paul Rose. I'm the, would be, if okay, to be the new manager to the Dudley L. Brown Post.
Yeah.
My name is Julio Roderick. I'm the treasurer of the VFW.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you very much. So the application this evening is for a change of manager. I did note that you had, Paul, you had completed the TIPS training. You just hadn't got the, and you are certified, you just hadn't got the certification in the mail yet.
The exam result.
All right. Any questions? Mr. Titlebaum?
No questions. Just an observation. The VFW is a very important part of our community. We rely on your facility for events, and I'm glad that we're here tonight to get the paperwork end on our end anyway, at least straightened out. So thank you.
No questions. Thank you. Mr. Winslow? Yeah. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the application for change of manager and new officers and directors by Dudley L. Brown Post 2846 VFW 4 Gibbs Ballpark Road, onset, under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws.
Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? The only thing on the question, Mrs. Winslow, is that they're going to, when he gets his certificate in the mail, he's going to drop it by with Shirley.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck.
Have a good evening.
Mr. Chair, we have a change order from Bay Point Country Club that we need to approve.
Yeah, this was a clerical error. And they checked off beer and wine when it should have been all alcoholic. So the event has taken place.
I move to approve the change order from Bay Point Country Club. Is there anything we have to sign? Mr.
Nope.
No? Okay.
It was just notification and a
Okay.
formal vote.
I move to approve the change order from Bay Point Country Club.
Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay, town business.
And while we're there, I'm just going to make a comment. I spoke to Attorney Bowen. We believe, at least from the initial conversation, the belief is that I think we found a remedy, but the issue of one-day licenses at the club is, one, that the golf course is a golf course, and obviously, right? Massachusetts last year, actually it was 2011, Massachusetts law changed so that any municipality in the state that had ownership in a golf course could have unlimited number of one-day alcoholic licenses on the premises, because the state felt that by restricting one-day liquor licenses to a seasonal applicant, that the town or that municipality could, it could be in jeopardy of the tenant not paying the rent if they couldn't have enough functions to afford to pay. So that is the premise that the town has been issuing one-day liquor licenses to Bay Point for so long, and they do fall under that requirement. And I did ask Mr. Bowen, at some point here in the next couple of weeks to give us a written opinion so that we don't just have a couple of oral opinions. That's it for that.
Great. Next, we have the Eagle Scout project update.
Here he is. We have two very important presentations this evening. The first one, if you all recall, I think I sat home and watched this in July, I think it was. Yeah, he has
No, I
this
was going to tell your
PowerPoint.
mom's friend, come on up here.
No, come on up.
Get a nice
Come on up.
picture of him.
You can sit up here with him if you'd like.
Go ahead.
We had this exciting project that took place out at the cemetery. This young man's Eagle Scout project. We recently read a letter to you about recommending him for his Eagle Scout. And Wareham's newest Eagle Scout. And he's going to give us his presentation on what he did out at the Agawam Cemetery for his restoration Eagle Scout project. So if I could get somebody to close off that one. That's it. Leave that one on. And ladies and gentlemen, we present our newest Eagle Scout in Wareham, Mr. Joseph Lazarus.
Not an Eagle Scout yet. Thank you very much, but I'm not an Eagle Scout just quite yet.
What happened?
Well,
Who do we have to go to? Chief, get on this. Right away. Lieutenant?
well,
All right.
before I become an official Eagle Scout, I have to go through an Eagle Scout Board of Review, which isn't taking place until March 19th. But after that, yes, I will.
I'm not going to take back the applause, though, but I'll take back the introduction then. I thought your mother told me you had already passed the board.
Well, all right. Well,
Okay.
let's get started.
You got it.
My name's Joseph Lazarus, and I'm just going to start by saying last time I came here, as Mr. Holmes just said, you weren't here. I'm glad to see you here tonight, and I'm glad to be speaking for all of you. Mr. Bowen, that was a lovely presentation of the Civil War. I really liked that. And so I asked permission to restore Agawam Cemetery, and I feel as though I've done that, and it was pretty good. So basically what I did was I had to restore 2 sets of iron fences, one that ran along Great Neck Road and one that was on R.D. Stillman Road. And we got both of those done, and we used a DCR, which is the Department of Conservation and Recreation's method that they put out. It's like a 45-page packet on how to clean and repaint an iron fence from the older age. And basically it says you have to scrape it off using wire brushes, then add rust reformer, then a certain type of primer, then rust-proof paint. Then I also weeded many locations throughout the cemetery itself, primarily running along R.D. Stillman Road. In the summer, hopefully there won't be a huge weed population again. And I also replaced the M on the overhead on the R.D. Stillman side road. That letter was provided from municipal maintenance, so thank you, municipal maintenance. And my favorite part of the whole thing was I had the opportunity to learn how to mix up cement and repair a few broken portions of the wall that was hit by a car, I'm assuming. I've been told several times that wall has been hit by cars, so what I have repaired probably won't be the last time it gets hit by a car either. But anyways, I just want to wish a few thank yous for the project. First, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to do this project, so thank you, Board of Selectmen. Then the Municipal Maintenance Department and the Cemetery Commission. And also all the volunteers that helped me out on the project, my fellow Boy Scouts, my classmates from Upper Cape Tech in the environmental science shop, and my old middle school, Nativity Preparatory School, came down from New Bedford. A few students came out and helped. My friends, my aunt and uncle Kay and Wayne, my grandmother Evelyn, who's in the back there, and many of my other family members and friends. And also I want to thank Highway Concrete too for donating all the materials to mix up the cement. And also I got a lot of well wishes from a lot of citizens just driving by, and they said how much of a good job I was doing, and they like to see that boy of my age, I guess you say, I'm not going to say young man because I'm still a little immature, but a nice boy of my age would work and do something like this. And I just want to say thank you to all of them. And again, thank you. So I have a few pictures prepared for this right here. So if you just turn your attention to that projector screen right there. So this is a picture of me, a few Boy Scouts, and Mr. Vasquez right in the middle there, my good friend from school. Mr. McNeil's the boy closest to me. We're weeding a portion on R.D. Stillman. And this is a picture of the gates being repainted. The gate on the left had already been primed, and the one on the right is in its primed state, I guess you could say. Those are some Boy Scouts helping me out, and a Boy Scout father in the back, Boy Scout right there. And my mother, my friend Hannah right here, and me priming the gate that runs along Great Neck Road. The M being fixed. So let's just so everyone who hasn't seen it, that was a portion of the wall that ran along R.D. Stillman Road back from about 2009, I think, maybe 2010 that happened. And it just sat there ever since, and I said to myself, I want to fix it. That's what inspired me, that picture right there is what inspired me to want to do this project. And there was a lot of heavy work involved. We had to get a bobcat down there, and from all the winters and the frost, the ground buckled, and it put the wall, the stone wall itself at an angle. So we had to dig it all up and put it back in. And that's a picture of the almost finished product. The mason right there was my old Boy Scout leader way back in 5th grade when I started. He was my Boy Scout leader, Mr. Bilodeau. Thank you to him too. And that's the finished product right there. That was taken back in January. I love it in the winter, so I figured I'd had to throw in a picture of with the snow. And that's just a different shot of it. And that's the end of it. Thank you very much.
You mentioned the weeds, right?
Yes.
And you were hoping that maybe in the spring they wouldn't grow as much and as fast. Now, if you notice them growing, are you going to come and weed that? Is that like an annual
If I have
ongoing
the
part
time,
of the
yes.
project?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that there's phase 2 coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You did a great job. And your mother standing in the back, she could have come up in the front. It was okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lazarus. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
You guys have a lot for the PowerPoint? No.
Sorry, I'll be quick.
Take your time.
You'll be sure to let us know when he passes that board, won't you? All right, I think I was given some incorrect information. There's no way they can't approve his Eagle Scout.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. One more time. Great job. Great job. The next part of our meeting is something that I've been here several years, and probably it may take place during the day. I'm sure it does. But I really felt that at this point in our history in Wareham, that this next meeting needed to take place right here on television. And it's not a meeting. I'm a little disappointed and apologize for these tables. This is not what I had asked for, a square table. This is not square. We'll fix that at some point. But the next portion of our meeting, and if you're waiting for anything else, please raise your hand. Not waiting for a phone call. But if you're waiting for any other town business or anything else, please raise your hand, because this is really what we're here for tonight. We're at a point in our history where money's tight, finances are tight, budgets are being put into place. People are going to town meeting looking for capital equipment. The school department is doing their job by trying to educate our children, and they're asking for equipment and teachers that they need in the schools. The town provides services, and many of those services we're going to talk about tonight. And I just thought it was so important at this point that we have this emergency after-action meeting right here in front of you all and those folks who have tuned in, because I did hear a lot of interest in this meeting, so that you can understand what these men and women who provide services to our town had to deal with 2.5 weeks ago. And some of that we're still dealing with today. And some of that we dealt with in the fall when we had the storm and more snow. And I think I just saw him, yeah, Mr. Gifford, thank you for coming. So what I'm going to, at this point, and I think it's important, and here's why. Because this storm, this last one, affected everybody in this town. It wasn't about people with no kids in the schools. It's not about senior citizens. It's about everybody. And some of the things that you're going to hear to me is just plain unacceptable. That a town would allow our men and women. Here tonight we're going to talk about life and death for our citizens. And I see serious faces in that front row, and you got one right here, because I've dealt with emergencies before. And when you have police that have no power and they have no phone, They have no communication. That's a life or death issue when you're trying to call the police department and your mother's on the floor not breathing. That's what we faced here in this town. And they're going to tell you about it. You don't have to listen to me. So at this time, what I'd like to do is fill all these seats, all these mics. Derek, are they all on? Yep. Okay. If you guys would all come up, please. Guy, Mark, everybody come on up. I really wanted it to be... Chief Anderson, do me a favor, will you? Sit in that chair. That would make me feel a little more comfortable. This is not meant to be a meeting in front of the Board of Selectmen. That's not what this is about. This is about an after-action review of our emergency that we just took place. So with that, Mr. Sullivan is obviously with his wife. I can't believe he didn't show up. I will have to call him in the morning. But he's well represented here by Mr. Campino. Gentlemen, if you would, go around the table, introduce yourself for anybody who might not know you. All of those mics are working, so please speak very closely into the mic if you would.
Good evening, my name is, good evening. I don't know. Good evening, my name is Guy Campino, Director of Water Pollution Control.
Mark Gifford, Municipal Maintenance Department.
Lieutenant Kevin Walsh, of the Police Department Operations.
Are those on? I can't tell. Yeah.
Chief of Police Richard Stanley, and also Emergency Management Director.
John Walsick, Lieutenant Wareham Police, and also Deputy Emergency Management Director.
My name is Robert McDuffie. I represent the Wareham Fire District. I'm the Fire Chief. Thank you for having us here this evening.
Patrick Haskell, Assistant Fire Chief, Wareham Fire District, and Vice Chairman of the LAPC.
Howard Anderson, Fire Chief, Onset Fire District.
Peter Titlebaum, Board of Selectmen.
Alan Slavin, Selectman.
Steve Holmes, Selectman.
Carol Winslow.
Rich Bowen, Town Council.
Okay. Who would like to, you want to go around the table? Is there, I thought that we might have a PowerPoint, but we can just do this, round robin. Who wants to start?
Well, I think as Emergency Management Director, if I could get started,
You would be the guy.
I would, first of all, like to thank all of my colleagues around the table who worked so diligently over several days, day and night. I know that also we had an awful lot of volunteers in addition to our public safety staff, as well as municipal maintenance, water pollution, and so forth. And that has to be said too, because those of you like Alan Slavin and Peter Titlebaum, who were in the shelter and saw what was going on at the warming center in volunteering your time, it was important to see some of the ramification of this. Steve, I know that you as chairman, I have to thank you for your assistance and leadership and offering to help, coming to the police station on several occasions in the height of the storm, getting a first-hand look at the conditions of the roads and so forth, and assisting in brainstorming sessions as we looked at what we could do to minimize the effects on our residents. I know that we sat and spoke to Barry Rabinovich as well, and some of the issues that went on, trying to coordinate what was best for our students. And by the way, I have some good news for you, and I'm sure this is going to come up, Steve, but your suggestion about the generator and the problem we were having, we were looking at a $40,000 or $50,000 problem, and I appreciate it. We did make contact with the military. We have located some generators, and we are right now looking at which one will work best. We're working with different organizations to get the right size, and looking at saving the town probably $50,000, so it was available.
Well, that's outstanding. There's one area that is a major issue, and so it just kind of came to me about where we got the Humvees, and I keep joking with you about a 5-ton, and I keep getting slapped upside the head about it. But I can remember we had plenty of generators, and the other option I think is NSTAR that we had talked about. Maybe we could get something from that. So that's good to know, and that's a big money saver for the town.
Yep, it really was. So,
if we can
what-
pull that off, I know Mr. Sullivan was pretty excited about hearing about maybe.
yeah, so it's working, so thank you. So, what I,
And we gotta remember that, you know, the chiefs, or Mark, or Guy had some issue with, generators as well, right?
Yes.
So maybe we're looking at more than one, and we don't wanna be greedy, but we do.
yeah, and we can look at that, and I'll spread the word to these guys as well, and it may work out. To probably keep a good flow going, I'd like to ask Lieutenant Walczak first, if you don't mind, as Assistant Emergency Management Director, to kind of talk about some of the nuts and bolts about what was going on during the start of this and the preparations.
We had, thank you, Chief. I did an after-action report, and I did a brief summary of it for the Selectmen's meeting immediately after the storm. And I went day by day. I don't think you want to hear all the particulars of it, but I can make it real quick. On Wednesday, we began monitoring the storm with Weather Resources officially. We contacted area emergency managers to determine their resources and efforts. Plymouth, Bourne, some of the area towns, MEMA. On Thursday, we had an 11:15 phone conference with MEMA and the National Weather Service. Chief Anderson, Chief Haskell, Lieutenant Walsh, myself, Chief had stopped in, and EMS Director David Evans was there. The Municipal Maintenance Department also monitored by their office. They advised us they were going to be on the phone conference as well. There were 460 participants in that first phone conference with Kurt Schwartz, who's the director of MEMA. They advised us that the troops would be strategically placed around the state for ease of deployment. Kurt Schwartz had indicated there would be 5,000 National Guard troops available, one of them being Justin O'Donnell, our Mass Maritime intern, who's been assisting us.
How come you're not sitting up here? You can come up here.
He's done a
We'd
phenomenal
like
job
to
to
hear
help
from
us
you
out,
too.
and
Sit right down there.
he did advise me before the storm I wouldn't be available because he was getting deployed, and so that was refreshing to know he'd be out there with us as well. And Chief Stanley ordered all wheel drive vehicles checked and made ready for the storm. Lieutenant Walsh ordered no more days off for the officers for the duration of the storm. And we spoke with Bob Ethier and Dr. Rabinovich about storm-related issues on Thursday. And Chief Stanley requested constant updates on all storm preparations. Friday, we had another conference with NEMA, National Weather Service, and NSTAR. Additional police staff was put in place. We had constant communication with fire and MEMA. Pat probably got sick of me calling him, and he called me quite a bit during the storm. Cruisers and dispatch were very busy handling multiple calls at that point. The warming center was open and available at night for people in emergency situations. And one of the keys I want to mention is that we were directed by MEMA on the Friday phone conference that the state would open regional shelters on an as-needed basis after the storm was concluded. They said the American Red Cross would be ready to open those shelters, and they would be open regionally. They knew that the offer was always open here in Wareham, that the American Red Cross was welcome here. Back in March of last year, we had the Red Cross actually physically in this building looking it over with me to determine whether this would have been an adequate shelter. And that didn't happen. They ended up opening shelters in Fall River, Bridgewater, and Plymouth. And there was a little problem with that because we went for several hours starting fact that there was a delay, Dr. Vegan, Suzanne Burke, Bob Ethier mobilized to have MRC medical reserves for volunteers in the shelter, and Dr. Vegan saw upon it that the shelter, the warming center rather, was supplied with foodstuffs.
Is that a permanent decision, Lieutenant, or is it the next door, are they gonna pick different shelters, or do they?
What I was told was by James Manning, who's the Region 2, MEMA Region 2, which covers 92 towns in the southeast and eastern portion of the state, in Bridgewater, was that wherever the particular need was, that's where the shelters would be. And when I called them and said, you know, I got a lot of people showing up here, and the cruisers just kept bringing them and bringing them and bringing them. The fire department, National Guard could bring people, and it became a real issue that I said to them, this is a problem, we need to have some decision made. So we have actually discussed with, I've actually contacted MEMA to have a meeting with the person in charge of emergency planning. I contacted him and said I want to sit down and talk to him. I've talked to Charlie Noyes, who's the director of emergency management in Wareham, and a couple of the other towns to see what we could do to come up with some kind of permanent solution. In fact, on Tuesday, the chief and I met with Rich Latour, who is the also a Region 2 member from MEMA, and we sat down, and he was a little, when the chief closed the office door, he got a little nervous, and but we ended up having a decent discussion about things, and it went fairly well.
One of the problems is, Mr. Chairman, is this, and it really came to light, and you and I discussed this in the height of it, the difference between a quote-unquote warming shelter and a warming center and a shelter. And the problem is that, look, we live, no offense, Mr. Bowen, but we live in a litigious, or Mr. Titlebaum, a litigious society, and what happens is that people are just waiting for any little issue to pounce on it and put us in a position where we are trying to do the right thing, and next thing you know, we are defendants in a lawsuit. So one of the things we were warned about is, listen, we, MEMA, have regional shelters. Do not shelter in place. Do not let us take them with the proper trained people, the proper facilities, the proper, I mean, you're talking about nurses and doctors and cooks and custodians and all these expenses that get involved by a diminished situation of available funding. They said, if you, Wareham, want to turn around and have a shelter, then what you should do is send a bunch of people to the following courses and classes. You'll need to purchase all of this equipment. You'll need to do all things to have a bulletproof, from a litigation standpoint, as close as you can get to a bulletproof shelter, so that you'll be in a point where you can defend yourself for anything that happens. We had people dropping off 15 and 16-year-old girls to say they're going to stay here for the night, and we said, time out. There is no way that a 15 or 16-year-old girl is going to stay in this building for the night. So those are the kind of things we're faced with.
All right, and Alan, what did you have for numbers there? Was it like 180?
The numbers moved around because unfortunately on Saturday,
we had the issue, as Lieutenant Walczak mentioned, we sat till almost 11:30 before we finally got buses. It was very frustrating. You know, it took a long time, and we were up about 160 plus people, maybe even a little more than that, probably over the limit. But the bottom line is we did move enough up. We still had quite a few stayed overnight. And we did have, I remember the one young lady that I actually called the mother to make sure we had permission for her to stay there in the first place. And we actually specifically said, you have to stay within the sight of the police officer. And we turned around and couldn't see her. And we had this, the custodian search the building, find her, and basically had her mother come take her home. Right. Because we knew we'd have issues there.
In the frustration, Alan, and please, John, mention this about the bus situation where they actually were.
Well, the frustrating thing about
I know, they were right down the street, basically.
They were at the Mass Military Reservation.
Yep.
I spoke to a captain of the Air National Guard. Those buses highlights, I think, of the storm was, we had a call from, the vice president of South Coast Hospital Group, who called me and said, we have a real upswing in hypothermia cases. And I spoke to Dr. Egan, who was at the shelter, and, she said she had a real concern for people in the, mobile homes especially. That's where Assistant Chief Haskell, Chief Anderson came in, and we through MEMA, got a hold of, approximately 35 soldiers, and under the direction of Assistant Chief Haskell, checked over 600 trailers or mobile homes in Redwood Park, Agawam Village, and individually checked each home to ensure the safety of these folks. And that after consultation with him, I panicked because I thought, in fact, we were going to have potentially a few hundred people show up at the Wareham Center. So I made it very important that that bus arrived. But the fire departments, and then by the time they finished the Wareham district, Chief Anderson's district started receiving power. We spoke about 1 o'clock in the morning or something, Chief, and your district had started receiving power. But and I think Assistant Chief Haskell's group only brought in about 10, and then transported one to the hospital directly for us. The EMS, David Evans isn't here, but I know that they answered over 130 medical-related calls during that time. The 48-hour period of storm.
What's their average? Do you know?
I
know?
couldn't tell you what their actual
Chief?
average is. Chief,
Do you know? Because you guys roll with them, right? Was
Yes, we do.
Did you find it higher?
There was major influx of
There was.
calls, I'll touch on
Same
that.
thing with us.
Yeah, same thing.
From the 8th at 1500 hours to the 11th at 2359 in the onset district alone, we did 132 calls. 33 of those were EMS calls.
Wow.
And there was a truck in onset, but we sent a squad with a plow ahead of them and another company just from the additional manpower. So
Wow. Is that your plot? You have the plot?
yeah, we sent our truck, and the town trucks, some of them are firefighters in town, so they have their scanners, and if they were plowing for the town and the call was in their area that they're assigned to under Mr. Gifford, they made sure that street was even opened up before we got there, so, there was good coordination that way, keeping the road opened up for emergencies.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just from the police department standpoint, talking about number of calls. From Friday, on the 8th, at 7:30 in the morning, when the snow started, till midnight on Sunday, the Wareham Police Department received 2,438 calls. That's how many calls came into the station. They were answered by 2 communications officers around the clock and 1 police officer working in the other room. So, again, I told the press countless times, hats off to our communications officers
Wow.
who took those calls.
That somebody could even answer that many calls.
Right, and that is not including the time on Sunday night for a couple hours when the generator went down and we couldn't receive calls, only 911 calls.
Yeah,
But it also
I've mentioned
includes-
that a few times, right, Kevin? What actually happens when that happens? I mean, where do the calls go? Do they just get a busy
The
signal?
911 calls still came in.
Middleborough?
Negative. 911 calls came into us still, even
Right.
with the generator down because of our battery backup.
Okay.
But all the rest of the situations, radio transmissions, that died quick, lights, everything went down.
Right.
So it was
You couldn't communicate with anybody.
no, for a while it was,
Called in, they didn't get you.
right, it was an officer safety issue. It was really a tough situation for a while, correct?
Go ahead.
So out of those 2,438 calls, they range from, do you think it's gonna snow some more, to a life-saving situation like you witnessed. And that wasn't even in our town, that was a Middleborough
Right.
call. But the calls range from that.
It's amazing, though. I got to tell you. I mean, that was pretty. I've been in a lot of those situations, being in the medical corps, but to watch somebody do that over the phone, I mean, that was. I fix a lot of things over the phone, but not usually that kind of stuff.
Right, and what the
That was really cool. Really cool to watch. I don't like to use that word,
But I think what the public has to understand is exactly what you saw firsthand, Mr. Chairman, was that when you're making that phone call to the police station, those dispatchers have gone far beyond, the communications officer has gone far beyond answering 911, what's your emergency. Now they are emergency medical dispatch trained. So while we're waiting for the ambulance to get there, and we're waiting for Wareham Fire, Onset Fire, and police cruisers to arrive at the scene, they are performing life-saving measures on the phone in keeping that person very calm to help the victim. And there's a lot involved. Sometimes these dispatchers can be on a phone call for 20 minutes or a half hour.
I want to say, if I could, that I'm happy to see Mr. Dennis Galvin here. He's a representative from NSTAR.
Oh, come right on up, sir. I didn't realize that. Come on up. Have a seat. There or over there. Might be easy to sit down over there.
And I will say that
That's why we have all these seats, so everybody can share whatever you'd like, talk with, just jump in. It's
Yeah, and we had, I have to say that, we have the NSTAR web portal that we use, a community web portal, which is very handy. There's 2 people in the town that can communicate directly, and we never have to talk to a machine. There's 2 people. If I have an emergency, I can pick up the phone and say, the fire department has wires on a car, I need you to cut power here. And I know I can get immediate response from NSTAR for these life safety emergencies. And they also provided us with an ambassador who came to our police station and physically was in the building for the height of the storm. So I don't know if Dennis can address that.
Right. Hi, Dennis Galvin, I'm Manager of Community Relations. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Lieutenant. It's always been a pleasure to work. I guess for the day I walked into your office, Chief, it's been a good working relationship. Over the past couple 2.5 years, we've had certainly a change in the weather patterns and extended storms. Before, I remember doing 2 or 3 day storms. Now we're doing 5 to 8 day storms. And within NSTAR, there's a number of, a week leading up to the storm that we're very, very busy. We're exhausted before the storm even gets here. And in terms of our planning and reaching out to crews from far away, number of, a dozen states this past time around, as well as Canada. I think we were fortunate in this storm, to use the word fortunate, but that it was a southeastern Mass centered storm. We at NSTAR weren't competing for line crews like we had been when the storm was up and down the East Coast. It gets very competitive in that environment for having boots on the ground, as we say, linemen and crews. So we were fortunate that we're a larger company because of our recent merger with Northeast Utilities, but additionally we were able to gather the needed crews. And somewhat thinking out of the box, after each storm, we assess internally those things that worked, but more focused on those things that didn't work and how we improve upon them. And some of that has, we sort of take a litmus test from town to town as to how we did. And some of those towns that we didn't do so well, we pay them a special visit to gather information as to how we can better ourselves. And that seems to be the mantra over the past 5, 6 years since I've been with the company. And so we've improved upon things each storm. And this past storm, as the lieutenant was saying, we were able to have enough personnel as well to offer up the ambassador. It was a new program where we've heard the cries of public safety in the midst of the storm. We have competing agendas to get people restored as quickly as possible, as well as being able to address public safety issues. If there is a down tree, down pole, down wires across Route 28 or so forth, need to alleviate that problem because we have emergency vehicles that need to get to the other side of town. And you have a hospital here as well, so you have, you know, other towns coming here. So it is a juggling act, but it was great to see this past storm because we were able to give the ambassador to the town a crew, tree crews, and just specifically deal with public safety as concurrently we were trying to restore power with our other crews. So we were certainly addressing, you know, the needs of public safety, I feel, anyway. You guys let me know.
Well, we will.
We promise.
I know you do, but here today, tonight, and versus, you know, bringing folks up. And it was a scary storm too, because, geez, I will say the groundhog. I'm really upset at the guy because, and I had some choice words for him because I thought I was well into warm weather and so forth, but you know we've been getting hit on a regular basis now, and
that's great. But I guess I want to just ask you a direct question. To
Yes.
the people who are tuning in here, and the people who are sitting here, and all of us at these tables with our families, you know, the storm comes, and the lights go out, right? I have this baby in the house, I have a child with medical devices, and I'm not gonna go through a long story, I wanna ask you a question. So, to the folks who experienced that, and I think we had 90-something% who did, and they're sitting there for 4 days, they get mad at you, right? And us too, but they get mad at you. So I think if you could take just a couple minutes and explain to us how that works. You get here, 97% of the people have no power. Why do I have to wait 4 days? And Alan got his back in 3 hours. And another comment that I got was, you know, they see all these vehicles, right, at the pier or at the municipal yard, or you see the cable guy parked there. Explain to us what all that means, because people say, oh, look, they're all in the parking lot, and they're not working.
Sure.
They're not helping us. They're not, right?
Well, it
So
gets
if you could take
aggravating.
a few minutes and address that for
It gets
the
aggravating.
townspeople, I think that
Sure.
would be
No, it,
important.
you know, it truly does get aggravating, but I do understand being within the company what that's all about.
Right.
And I can't speak for Verizon or Comcast or anyone else. I can speak for NSTAR.
Right.
And our contractors. And it was healthy to see the governor speak prior to the storm and given the warning as well that the utility company would not be restoring power until after the storm. And after the storm within NSTAR and you know, especially contractor crews, sometimes we push the limits with our crews being up in the buckets, but it's unsafe, and we are safety first. So, and particularly, you know, with weather blowing and the coldness as it was, we are charged to bring up as many customers as possible within a short period of time. So if we have that opportunity to bring up 2,000 customers versus 250, we have to bring up the 2,000. And from time to time, we are, particularly with this storm, my role was on Cape Cod, though I managed the Southeast with community relations. And we had folks in Plymouth and certainly dealing with the lieutenant. Our transmission backbone, we were down for quite some time. So we need to bring up the backbone to the system before critical facilities get back up, before neighborhoods get back up. And there was, we had so many transmission lines that were down. So it took that much longer. And it's scary to think, because I look at the time frame that it did take us to bring back the customers. And to me, it was phenomenal, the amount of time, if the same storm appeared where it had impacted the entire East Coast, it would have taken much longer, because we would not have had the complement of crews on the ground that we did. And so the frustration, certainly I feel that on the cold. I feel that customers do need to call our 800 number, 800-592-2000. At times you will not get a person, but it's important to log your information in. If you're calling from a cell phone, we need to know where you are out. Sometimes there are little pockets of 12 people that we are not aware. Generally, we are aware of the 2,000 to 500 to 250 customers. But in this situation, as you had said, 90% of the customers were out. We had towns that, we have our colored map of our service territory. And I had never seen colors to that extent that we've had in terms of a large percentage, major impact to our system in terms of outage. And it's a scary thought because of the cold that we all had to deal with, as well as shelters having to be up. We were running generators to locations that we knew the transmission lines were down, and you were not going to be up for some time because we were working on that. At times we have some of those folks that are sitting, they're waiting for that transmission line to get back up that people are working on. And once they get that up, and then we send these folks out to those particular locations of the 2000s, the 500s, the 250s, and then begin to bring our system back up. And so I do understand the frustration of seeing crews just sitting there and why aren't they doing anything? There is a reason for that. There also is a reason, there's a lot of switching that is going on remotely. In today's utility world, we're able to get up customers far more rapidly than we used to in the past. We have these units called automatic switching units that if we have A, B, and C, we have this line of customers that are out. Say this impacts 3,000 customers. We're able to route energy this way and energy this way and to localize where the fault may be, thereby bringing up possibly 2,000 to 2,500, leaving that 250, 500, 750 out. Then we dispatch to that location. So we're able to get many people up in a short period of time. But safety is such that when you have so many lines that are down and people are calling on Verizon lines, Comcast lines, because they don't know the difference, and oftentimes public safety doesn't know the difference as well, so they'll call NSTAR. And so we also send people out, and we have troublemen that go out to check the lines, and of course, fire police standing by all the time, and we want to relieve you folks. It's frustrating for you because you're tying personnel up, you're also tying up your vehicles. And we want to be able to address that. And that's a challenge for us, but it's something that we've heard and something that we're trying to think out of the box in terms of how we do things on a regular storm ERP basis, emergency response plan. And I think the ambassador was a part of that. So we're trying to, at this point, how do we regularly do that, given if there is a storm up and down the coast and we're competing for crews, how can we still give this ambassador program with personnel to address public safety issues?
Mr. Gifford. Good evening. Mr. Chairman. How are you? I'm well. Well, this is kind of a round table, so, but I did want you to be able to get in your points.
Well, I'm gonna give it that.
You're not gonna give us a bill, are you? Yes, he is. Look, the first thing I see is a receipt roll there. I'm surprised the chief didn't do that.
Maybe I beat him to the punch on one something anyways. First of all, I would like to thank my staff. They did a wonderful job. They worked endless hours, in fact, 26 hours straight in a truck plowing snow is unheard of. I mean, that's a lot of dedication. And we had a lot of dedication in my office through Mary Healy, who answered hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls and complaints. And she did a wonderful job. And I also want to thank Patrick Murphy, custodian, who was in the shelter for over 24 hours, and Mr. Kevin Hunt. I've gotten letters and thank yous from people who were in the shelter for a great job that they did. So I want to give them recognition.
Yeah, and on top of that, Mark, I think I want to make a comment because I know Bob had another commitment, but the entire Board of Health staff and team that pitched in there, the Board of Health members, our members of the Board of Health were there. I know Bob was there, Bob Brady, right? They were all there.
They were there for days.
Bob Ethia and his crew did yeoman's work, so we want to make sure he's not here tonight, but hopefully at some point we'll get some commentary from Bob as well.
But I'd like to touch on some of the things people maybe don't realize what we do. Approximate cost for our hired plows, $118,000. And that's the hired plows, that was the average of 23 hours straight. We have 77 hired plows and we have 4 sanders. On top of that, we also had 5 loaders from 80 Makepeace and a tree crew out. The tree crew worked for 5 days straight.
Now, is that something Instar has too, a tree crew? Do you guys do tree crew during this operation?
Yes,
Yeah.
they had a number of them.
The tree crew does from wherever the end of the tree is to the road, to the end of the
Right.
road, the sidewalk, somebody's fence. Where does that fall?
We, well,
Now, where does that line stop when you removing a tree from the road?
Well, anything that comes in contact with our line, we're concerned about.
Right.
So that during a storm, generally, if you're doing regular trimming of trees, we're responsible for taking out
in
the.
a storm, the tree falls.
Yep.
Right, and sticking in the road. You guys show up. If it's affecting wires.
If it's
How far back do you cut that?
well, during the storm, we would push the tree, especially with loaders, out of the way to make the road passable. We wouldn't touch trees that were tangled up in your lines because of safety for my men.
Right. So the issue is just to get the tree out of the way, so it's not blocking the road.
That's correct. And we'll be clearing up trees for the next 2 months. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, I see. Go ahead, Mark.
So we had approximately 150 downed trees, not counting the trees that were tangled into utility wires, or you had plenty of poles down. I had 17 municipal maintenance employees, and I also should thank the harbor master and his assistant because they also drove a truck for me. Because we, unfortunately, and I hate to keep hopping on this, we're understaffed. We had trucks sitting in the garage that weren't being utilized until I could get drivers for them. So I want to thank those people, and Mr. Kevin Barrows, who works for the Water Department. He come in and worked for us also.
How many poles down do you know? Off the top of your head?
I don't have that. No, I don't have that information.
We have a number about 70. Wasn't it about 75 at one point? We
I
have
don't have the exact number either.
Yeah, we're still doing our report that's going to go before the DPU. Yes.
Trees falling on lines.
Sure.
Actual poles, I thought it was over 70.
Yeah.
Could be mistaken. Is that about right?
Oh, it could be about right. I know in other towns they lost far more than that. So that could be, but I don't know the specifics of Wareham.
But as far as materials that was put out, we put out 640 tons of salt, and that was at a cost of $32,000. We put out 960 tons of sand that was mixed with the salt, $9,500. Fuel consumption, 1,830 gallons of diesel. It cost us $6,800. 335.4 gallons of gasoline, $1,130. Our payroll alone for those 2 days for my employees, $20,954. So you can see, and that's just one storm. We're budgeted $191,000 for snow and ice. Unfortunately, we're in deficit. In fact, we were probably in deficit before the storm hit. But
I can add to the cost. Lieutenant Walsh and myself have been working on a preliminary damage assessment against FEMA, so we can start to the process of applying for a refund from FEMA should it be declared. And the cost to the town, as of what we had reported at the end of today, was in excess of $500,000 in damages and expenses.
That also includes, just so you know, the preliminary damage assessment, they only want one report from a community. So I included Chief Anderson's costs and Chief McDuffie's costs, and that's put in. So that money does include the districts as well, just for ease of reporting of communities. So that's why we do
Is that the
that.
same mechanism we use to try to get reimbursement?
Well, this is the preliminary damage assessment. They'll take the grand totals from a county and declare on a county by county basis whether or not to send FEMA teams to do an assessment for reimbursement.
Right, that was, the deadline and that was today at 5 o'clock, and all our stuff is in, but now they will compile all of that and see where everything stands.
And we've already been in touch with John Keback from FEMA, who's been meeting with us regularly, and Municipal Maintenance, Onset and Wareham Fire, for the Tropical Storm Sandy, that we're still working on getting the money for that. And he said highly likely he'll be here to do the preliminary damage assessment for this Winter Storm Nemo. So
I'd like to just give you a total of $231,759, and I'm sure there's some straggling bills out there. And that does not include wastewater treatment plant. I'm sure Mr.
Can you
Campino.
have Mr. Gifford's numbers in that 500 or no?
We have Mr. Gifford's numbers in the 500,000, as well as the school department, the fire districts,
All right.
and the police department. We're just waiting on Mr. Campino's numbers because his aren't completely compiled yet because they're still waiting on the snow runoff and the replacement of manholes and all the work he still has to do.
right, FEMA's aware of that. Mr. Campina's numbers can fluctuate greatly. So I suspect that there is going to be no problem with the county meeting its threshold with towns like Plymouth and Marshfield and Situate in the mix. I don't think it'll be an issue.
And the water issues, are there any water issues out there to be combined with Mr. Campino's work? Nothing.
I can't speak for
the water
department, I don't
Chief? No?
I agree, I can't speak on their behalf either.
So I'd like to hear from Mr. Campino, and he can explain to you exactly what his staff had to go through during the storm.
Very, very briefly, I know time, but I'll be very brief. We don't have any life-saving, and so I want to say that up front. But what we do have to do is keep 23 generators that are diesel-powered and 8 portable generators running at all times. We have 2 generators at the wastewater treatment facility itself, and by law, we have to be up and running. So if the hospital is doing their job, they don't need to worry about sinks, toilets, or water. So we're running around, keeping the diesel generators running, so that's one less of a concern. We have rest homes, we have convalescent homes, the same scenario. Residents, condos, emergency facilities, business as usual. So what we have to do, one of the things that become a hardship for us is with the new laws, we can only have a limited amount of gallons contained inside these pump stations. At one time, we could have external tanks, 300-400 gallons, and we could run for long periods of times. Now, a lot of these stations have 55-gallon tanks inside, double containment. So that means, and some of these generators burn anywhere from 5 to 25 gallons per hour. The one at the plant can burn up to 71 gallons per hour. So that means we have to constantly fuel them. So in the storm, the height of the storm, these guys are running around throughout the town keeping these generators full of fuel. We use approximately 3,000 gallons of diesel fuel through the storm. So that is the issue that we face. And so the conditions of the roads, the power lines, all this other good stuff, we still have to be out there keeping the generators running. Same thing at the facility.
Just to that point, the Oak Street pump station, as I understand it, runs on natural gas as a backup for the generator. Is that correct?
Yes, we have 15 generators that are gas. And those are the new ones, gas.
Yep.
And then all the ones on 6 and 28, Cohasset Narrows, Hill Street, Jefferson Shores, Hicks Ponds by D'Angelo's across from the Pub 99, and Depot Street are gas-fired. And then throughout the town, there's some spotty ones. The town made a decision many years ago to go with diesel on the 23 main, so that's what we have. And to convert to gas would be quite quite costly. But we do have 6 generators that need to be replaced now through the storm. And we have a generating company that maintains our generators, and we've done life expectancy of all our generators. We have 6 right now that are beyond their life expectancy, and they create problems for us. The one in South Water went down. We had to bring our backup generator. We brought out a 35 kW, towed it there, and then in the height of the storm, talking to people that are electricians and the generator folks, telling my guys how to wire these things. And of course, we have a lot of power going through these pump stations. So, you know, it gets hairy. But we know, especially in South Water, if we don't get it back up and running, then there's issues. So. Solutions that give us more capacity to run without having to go out there all the time, the man hours.
I was just going to ask that, with respect to the generators that you're replacing this year and an ongoing program of replacement, are you looking to get those in as gas-fueled generators so you can reduce the manpower needed to keep the system going in a storm?
Absolutely. The stations in Parkwood, Oak Street, those stations, we didn't have to. They became low on our priority list.
Right.
We could monitor them by computer.
Yeah, I didn't see you guys there much during the storm, which was fine.
No, we can monitor by computer, so we stay away from that area. But the ones that are diesel, we have to constantly touch. And some of them, because like on the one in Saltwater, Saltworks Road in Indian Mountain Beach, to get down there is crazy. So what we have to do is bring diesel in containers, 5-gallon containers, down to it. So what we're doing is that we're checking that station every 3 or 4 hours, getting it, firing up the station, empty the wet well, and shutting it down to conserve fuel. So it would mean less trips down to that generator. So those are the kind of decisions we're making during the middle and the height of the storm. Because, again, safety is most important, and the guys have to travel through that. And we also experience with the town's phone system that we have, communication. And we had guys out in Rose Point that we couldn't even communicate with. So right now we're looking, we have a list of things that we observed, and we have to make changes for the future. Sprint, the cell towers go down, you don't have any communication. I have a guy out there, and we need to talk, we really couldn't talk. Phones go down, they come up, phones go down, they come up. Direct Connect didn't work, so we had a lot of issues.
What do you use it? What do you use?
The same as Mr. Campino.
It's what the town uses.
It's what town uses.
The town, just so everybody understands, has been in discussion with the telephone company that provides the service for about 3 months now, trying to get the issue solved. It's been a common problem. Probably our regular residents have the same problem with that particular service as well.
Do they need to rent some space from the town and put up a signal?
No, they just...
They'd be happy to do that,
no,
to get some revenue.
I know that, but no, they're just claiming that...
You working on that?
No, the towers, they claim they're trying to get the towers dialed in. So we asked the question.
So we're looking to look at backup. We're looking at some type of backup. So those are also things that we're looking at, because we have guys that we want to keep safe and be able to communicate.
Chief, you guys have Kevin, you have those issues?
Yeah, we have the
the
same
phones?
issues. Oh, yeah. Same service, same issues.
So that's pretty much what we did.
That's a pretty common thing.
Yes, sir. I'd like to, it's my turn out of this.
Oh, go right ahead, yeah. Jump right in anytime you want.
Thank you very much. And once again, I appreciate, having us here, because I think this is a good opportunity so we can close out this storm and prepare for the next. I've taken some notes because I wanted to capture some of the highlights and some of the challenges that we were faced with. A lot goes on in public safety behind the scenes that most people don't realize. Several days prior to the storm, in particular my department, our senior command staff met on numerous occasions, which consists of myself and 2 assistant chiefs of operations, to identify the needs and staffing preparations. Although we are always in a service-ready state, we had to prepare for a long duration as we were monitoring the weather so closely that things such as chainsaw fuels, extra chains, topping off some of our fuel tanks and some of our remote LP tanks was a must, and to just make sure that our staffing was, they took care of their loved ones and things of that nature back at home, so they to try to minimize distractions when they were actually called to duty. During the activation phase, the initial onset of the incident, we had planned on doubling our staff, which we normally run with a four-man engine company, man-for-man coverage. So we had planned initially on doubling that staff throughout the storm. As the storm grew near, and due to the rapid deterioration of the weather, we were forced to come up with Plan B to essentially bring in all of our staff, those who were available. Now, normal staff is approximately 80 plus. That's a combination department that we run, both career and callback staff. And due to the influx of calls, we had no choice but to do so. One of the things we need to focus on prior to a storm is to prepare for our staff as far as food and things of that nature, because when they're going to be called to duty, we're going to have to provide not only fuel for the equipment, we're also going to have to provide fuel for our staffing and anyone that assists. During the crisis phase, we were faced with a variety of incidents. Wires down, as we all know, trees down, we've talked about. Trees through houses this given storm. Many alarms, whether it be a 100 mil tied into our fire alarm, central station alarms, medical calls. There were major medical calls. All of public safety was taxed. In an effort to aid the citizens, including transport and assist my brothers and sisters in public safety, it's comforting to know that public safety, as we know it here in Wareham, currently works very closely together. Uniquely, where we have a town of Wareham that functions as you do in the two separate fire districts, and in a collaborative effort, hats off to each and every one, municipal maintenance, EMS. It's nice to know that we can work amongst each other in a civilized manner. And just to touch on one thing, Mr. Gifford had assigned us a loader that we could work with some of our teams, and that helped us out immensely, that when we had to open up a road for the purposes of ingress, egress for public safety issues, that we minimize any safety threats to our staffing, that they were able to push a load with the big loaders, a tree, for example, out of the road so that we could maintain access. One of the big things on a long duration storm we're faced with is how do we use our staff and try to continue these efforts on a long duration, and how do we kind of run them through to minimize the fatigue factor. Once again, fueling the staffing, giving them a point of rest. They were going for 30 plus hours.
How does that work, Chief? Today, I remember 78, North End Fire Station, New Bedford, sleeping on the floor every once in a while on a cot from a Jeep litter. Has it gotten better today?
Well, we like to think that we have better equipment. We have to be aware of, as bad as it was, I like to think it's a kind of a double-edged sword. We're getting pretty good at these type of events. It's third year consecutive that we've been faced with hurricane threats, and obviously this storm. In many ways, there were certain issues similar to 1978, the blizzard of, that we had learned lessons as a result of those type of endeavors. But all in all, we've learned to run as lean as we can because of the trying times economically, and try to do more with less with our staff and provide them better safety equipment. But in the thrust of expanding the longevity of our staffing, we try to run them through rehab more frequently and get them in, get them warmed up, dry clothes, and then get them the rest that they deserve, quick hot meal, and then get them back on the assignments. Some of the challenges, many may know that the fire station on Main Street had a unique situation here where when the storm struck, it actually took out 5 utility poles immediately behind the fire station.
Right.
That's our central hub, feeding our inbound fire alarm system, our primary utility lines for service entrance cables. It was all destroyed. It was demolished. I'd like to credit the end staff for, I had a great experience with them through this particular storm. I've had other experiences that weren't so great in past storms, but I think they're hearing us in our cries at the public safety level, and they came out in full force, and we were on our knees basically. Our call volume was over the top. We had, throughout most of the crisis phase, we had up to 4 dispatches trying to take the calls, and we were down to 1 and 2 phone lines because of the poles and all the associated wires were on the ground immediately behind the fire station. Our generator ran for 5 days straight. We had our software, IMC. I know the police used that same software. We had the server crash, so we had to resort to the old school pen and paper. That was pretty ugly when it came, and we're still working on digging out of the hole as far as trying to conclude with our reporting. One of the unique things that most people don't realize with public safety individuals is it's imperative that we as department heads with the forward thinking, have to consider the employees' loved ones in the infancy phase of such a storm, because where we spend a lot of time selfishly trying to protect and serve, we leave our loved ones behind. And I know many personal experiences that were pretty catastrophic, and the distractions that we were receiving from our homes, but meanwhile we had to serve as we take an oath. So I'd like to credit the families that we leave behind through these type issues. One thing I'd like to touch on, if anything positive comes out of this, is here again we talk about the collaborative effort and working relationship. I hope that we can stride for the future and try to be proactive and to develop a real emergency operations center. Right now we're running on a Band-Aid, and we've been, it's not adequate. It's not even close to being adequate, and I think we should join hands somehow and try to conquer such a task, because we can't provide the services that you deserve if we don't have the tools to work with. And that would be one of the main issues, that we could all come together, and I think that would be a nice touch to be able to do so in the future.
I agree, very nice. Chief?
Yes, I'd like to echo Chief McDuffie's thoughts. And the last thing you just said is most important. I've been involved in onset fire department since April of 1970. And even before that, there was always discussion about an EOC and evacuation centers, and it just talk about it. Then we get through a couple years without storms, or, anything that's significant that impacts the residents. And realizing that budgets are tight, we need to, we really need to address that issue. And I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight. And I will echo that the interagency cooperation during this storm was absolutely fantastic. I think NSTAR stepped up to the plate big time. Speaking as one of your neighbors, the Hydro-Quebec crew, they were absolutely fantastic down in the onset area. I heard comments about why is the trucks packed over where the White Pines used to be, which that was another great thing that happened. Same thing as public safety personnel. The people on those electric trucks, they need to be fueled up, so they need to take time to eat, and same thing with our people.
Who deals with that? Do you have your people feed through the chief? I mean, does NSTOP? Go ahead, Chief.
I can speak for the Wareham Fire District specifically, of course. We're happy to bring anybody in that serves and protects, whether it be a sector police car if they're in an area where they can't get back to whatever is going on at the police level. We took in a lot of the utility people to try to help them out as well, because we know what they were faced with out there.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, at one point, one of the police department vehicles, because of the electricity being down, they were down in Onset, and there was question on whether there was enough fuel in the vehicle. Pull up to our tank, we're gonna put fuel in it. It's an emergency vehicle. You know, we'll worry about 16 gallons of fuel later. But the fact is, we need to take care of the customers that take care of us. They're the ones that provide us with our paycheck. We deserve to have the equipment and everything to deliver the service to the customers and take care of them.
Yeah. You know, you both made a comment, and I wanted to make sure I made this comment as well. You know, I've only been here maybe 7 or 8 years now in town, so I'm kind of new. And but the impression is that the town of Wareham, Wareham District, Onset District, municipal maintenance, right? That there's all these, it's a division, and it's these silos. But I can tell you that from sitting in, and I know in the fall, Mrs. Winslow was at that meeting at the police station in the basement, and I can tell the citizens that there is no division when it comes to public safety in Mr. Gifford's department, and Mr. Campini's department, and Mr. Ethier, who's not here, and town administrator. You know, he's a guy that we haven't really mentioned because he's not here. His wife had a baby daughter, but I'll speak a little bit about him. When I attended that meeting on Sunday at the police department, I mean, to see a young guy who just got put into a job 5 weeks ago, and to listen to him evaluate the information you all are giving him and comprehend that and spit out a good answer, I was quite impressed for someone who has a finance background. Sorry, Mrs. Brown. But to see somebody like that, and I think one of the comments that him and I had in conversation was, it's because of the fact that when he looked out and he listened, all you guys and ladies were on the same page. There was no decision, you know, there's no question, oh, Chief McDuffie says this, Chief, you know, Stanley says this, what do I have to do? All he had to do was listen and follow you. So that's a tremendous compliment to you all, and Dr. Rabinovich, who also has to deal with all of this on the school side, isn't here tonight. And so I think Derek Mr. Sullivan did a very outstanding job for the town. But, you know, I think when it comes to Public Safety Act, you're absolutely right. I think that, you know, if we had one, whatever you call it, complex, I think you're gonna go out and buy this, you're gonna go buy this, you're gonna buy this, you're gonna buy this, and I think if we all got together and held hands and put something together as a town and districts, I think we'd be a lot better off for the citizens overall. So I like that idea. Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I'd just like to touch on that a little bit. It's, you know, I touched on doing more with less, and we're faced with that as the economic times are where they're at. It drives up the business of public safety, and all of the support that we receive, whether it be a town meeting or a district meeting, there is overlap. And and the way I see it from my view as an administrator, as I had indicated, a lot goes on behind the scenes, and when the rubber hits the road, we have constant communications through whether it be a storm or on the norm, it doesn't matter. But it's really something to really sink our teeth in the future, and to be a little more responsible in how we operate as a community.
Sure.
I'd like to add that the local emergency planning committee that was put together is huge in that, because we've now regularly been meeting with public safety heads, municipal maintenance, water pollution control, and I think that's a big deal. I think
So
it's,
we've had that in place now for what? Were you guys here when we did that?
Mm-mm.
So it's been, what, about a year?
yeah, and
That we put that in place?
Right, and we're now one of only a few communities in the state fully certified, and we've got people coming in on that shortly, so.
One last thing I'd like to say, Mr. Holmes, is I would like to echo everyone's thoughts and extend my gratitude to all the personnel, you know, at Onset Fire, Onset Water Department, they were available, and to the other agencies. And the cooperation is what made us deliver good service to our customers, you know. So hopefully we'll have more meetings and take care of little things and improve and be ready for the next storm.
And they will be coming. I mean, and that's another reason to meet tonight, was to say that, you know, we had the storm in the fall, and some of the equipment was already shaky when we started it, and we made it through that one, right? And here we are now in a blizzard. I think they did qualify it as a blizzard. And, you know, and some of the stuff didn't make it through this. You know, what happens in 3 weeks or this summer when we have more storms? And, you know, we all sat at the high school or the middle school there, wasn't long ago, when Neiman came in, the weather guy came in, and they gave us that forecast for our area. Remember that when we did the emergency management plan? I mean, that guy was right. I mean, look at the storms that are coming by us, and some of these we're just missing. So, you know, what do we do? What do we do 3 weeks from now when you see another monster storm coming? That's all you hear is monster storms these days. What are we going to do in 3 weeks when they lose power on Friday? And I mean, I wouldn't expect to see somebody I was happy to see the governor say that. I wouldn't expect to see somebody on a pole on Saturday. You know what I mean? So what are you going to do now for 5 days?
Right.
Or more. So look at the people down in New Jersey and New York that are still have issues. And, you know, we're a coastal community. We enjoy the benefit, but this side of it, and we don't focus on it, because, next year we don't have any. Last year we didn't have any snow. We were playing golf all winter, right? This year we did, and we're not done yet. And then the summer comes, and then the winter comes, and we have to be ready for this stuff, because people demand, all of us, at all these tables, and Mr. Sullivan is not here, that we provide them these services. That's what they want. And I think we do a damn good job at it, but we do need some help and resources all the way around this table. And so, and I think the only way to do that is to put ourselves together like we are today. Mrs. Winslow.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I've had the opportunity to sit in at least one, if not more, emergency planning meetings going back to Earl, who was supposed to be a major event, and literally, bye. It was, but we were ready. We were ready. And, you know, I think that these conversations are important, and I think it's important for the public to understand that when we talk about improving on things, I've seen a great deal of improvement over the last few years since that first meeting that I sat in Onset. It was hot and steamy, and we all watched those videos from when Hurricane Bob came through, and it was kind of fun to watch the boats go down Main Street. No, I'm just kidding. But it's, you know, we've come a long way, and we, you know, it's always a good thing to sit down, and we do. We very much appreciate all the people that are out in the storm. I say that every time I'm at one of those meetings. We appreciate the people that are home waiting for them. You know, things go wrong at home too. And when people that you rely on are out, you know, trying to take care of everybody else, that can create a little bit of tension in the household. Yeah. And to NSTAR, I want to say quickly that, you know, you guys have come a long way since Irene. There were places in my neighborhood, first of all, during Irene, we were told that we had only 2 people in the community that were relying on medical life-saving devices, and I knew then, I told the lieutenant, that wasn't the case. Somebody had made a mistake, and now we're on top of that, and we're making sure. I mean, we had to have an NSTAR guy come down my road because somebody literally almost died a few houses down because they weren't on that list, and it was devastating. And NSTAR came out and talked to the neighbors and apologized to everybody, and I thought that was rather big of them. And I thought I did the little time I got on my smartphone without power, I tried to check Facebook, and I was horrified by the messages that were left on your Facebook page. And I did get on there and write that people needed to, I was cold too. Boiling water just doesn't heat my entire house. But I just want to assure people who live out in East Wareham with me that I now own a generator. So the chances of you losing power again are slim. Because the moment I brought that generator home and the electrician came and hooked it up, we discovered that the lights were back on, thanks to Hydro-Quebec that was out there in force. So I think everybody did a great job. I think this conversation's important. I would like to see us have better planning for warming centers, shelters, whatever that's going to be. That did seem to be a little glitch in this one. People didn't know. And because the decision to open it was made after most of the power had gone out and people couldn't communicate that well, it was hard to get the word out unless they were calling into the police. And I know people like me, I'm not going to call the police department because I'm cold. I'm going to boil water and get under a comforter, And so.
To that point, is there an issue with this building? Are we in the right building? Yeah. Because of the elevator?
The elevator. The generator.
We have an issue, this particular building, when the generator was put in, it powers half the building. The elevator basically is not in there, so therefore we can only use the lower level. If we have to transport people up and down, you get past that first half level, you would have to actually hand carry them up and down, which is an issue in itself. Just to go through everything, just so everybody understands, I spent time there at the bottom level floor for quite a while, 2.5+ days. And it was enjoyable because I got to see how everything worked. And I got to see how when we had an issue and a problem, it wasn't like wringing your hands, what are we going to do? It was, okay, this isn't working, and what's the next step, how to make it work? Every department in front of me here figured out how to make it work. And there was never any arguments, any temper tantrums, anything. It was just done. We had some people that were very difficult to deal with. Lieutenant Walchek went way above what I consider the normal work level.
One of the difficult people to deal with.
No, he
said his name right at the end of that.
No, he basically sat there and listened to people say, "I'm not leaving here. I'm not going to Fall River. We're trying to do what was right for them." And he just sat there and worked with them until they finally got him to a point that we did end up keeping way too many people in the building here, but we had the Elks step up. We had Mark Anthony's. We had a lot of individuals come in and keep people. We had over 100 people one night here, which technically we shouldn't have done, but we did and made it work. And everybody in front of me did it work. The fire department, there was issues on the trailer parks and the other areas. They went out with the National Guard, as mentioned, and they went and checked everybody out and brought people in. The police department were constantly bringing people in. Lieutenant Walchek, again, had the phone numbers for NSTAR. We had people that wanted to go home, and before we let them go home, we called NSTAR to make sure they had power before they went home, because we weren't going to bring them back to a place that wasn't safe heat-wise. The NSTAR, we mentioned Hydro-Quebec. We also should mention the crews out of South Carolina, and I believe you also had crews out of Wisconsin. I don't know if anybody, how they feel, but I think that overall, the time frame that we got our power back was really spectacular considering the damages, if you looked in the areas and stuff. And when you see like 5 or 6 trucks, Hydro-Quebec, whatever, they sit there, they stop on the street. They aren't fooling around or taking a smoke break. They're sitting there figuring out where they're going to hit next and what the directions are. And they just go out in a group and they move, and all of a sudden things are working power. They stop for 15, 20 minutes, and then they go off another area. And it just works so well. I just was really amazed by all of it. And I just want to thank all of you, because without it, we would have had a real problem. Thank you.
Now, where was do you know where was EMS housed? I know they didn't sit around because they had always...
EMS is actually... Unfortunately, it's a floodplain zone building, which is down on Sandwich Road.
No, during the storm.
Well, they weren't house. No, they were constantly
They had
running.
a truck in Onset.
Yeah.
Just a truck, not a transport vehicle.
Yeah.
They
They were the EMS ambulance was running constantly.
I think they did a great job strategically laying out their equipment and
Yeah.
staffing as well. Based on our observation, I don't think they spent too much time in a building. They were on the road.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No.
But when they weren't did they use that building as the center, chief? Or did they use the fire department?
No, they were laid out.
As my brother Chief had indicated, they had one crew stationed at your state, or
Right.
that was the intentions. Then they had a floating four-wheel drive, I believe, so they can get into some of the harder hit areas.
Yeah, I was just wondering where they, because usually if you're opening the road, they get a call, you're opening the road, they're right behind you. So,
Yeah.
I know in the past, we've had ambulances that went out with you or went out with Mark.
They also
He went and cleared a road to get to a house. So I was wondering if they were coming out of another building that we were powering and we had to worry about, you know, and I'm thinking in terms of this master building. It's one less, if you're all together, it's one less thing we have to worry about, another building.
It solves a lot of problems, including the Emergency Operations Center. Absolutely. Just on a good note also, you've probably seen me on the texting here. We,
Gaia generator.
well, since this morning, we've been working on a bank robbery that took place. And I was just informed, there's a bank robbery down on Main Street. I was just informed by Sergeant Jacinto they just made the arrest.
Great.
Outstanding work.
So they got him. The detectives have been working on it all day, and they've been dogging him all night, and we just got him, so.
Anything else? Any other comments, questions? Anybody in the audience have a question? Mr. Barrows, what are you thinking? Anybody else have a question about anything? Any of you? Go ahead. If you want to come up so Bobby can hear the question on the microphone. Or a comment, whatever you'd like.
But due to like Minor Ave and in my area, there was a lot of trees over the telephone poles. Do you think by cutting way before a storm, if we were to cut back on those trees so that we wouldn't have to worry about it around the storm, or like telephone poles? Who's in charge of actually doing and looking and making? Because wasn't the telephone poles rotted out and stuff? So isn't there an inspector for these telephone poles so that maybe when there's a storm, you wouldn't have that urgency at the time of the storm?
Yeah, we have,
That's
we.
an excellent question. The question is, if you didn't hear it, is around prior maintenance and inspection of wires and telephone poles, and is that done routinely?
It is done routinely. We hire this contractor, Osmos, and they go around and check our poles, the life of the poles. And they have this technology where they actually stick something in the pole and they can, right there, they can research it to see if there's, what the life is. And if it's sketchy, they'll mark the pole, they'll document it, and within our company, NSTAR, we have a shared, along with Comcast, Verizon, a shared database, because from town to town, it's more of an agreement, whether it belongs to NSTAR. For example, if somebody hits a pole, knocks it down, who comes out to repair that pole? Is it NSTAR or is it Verizon? So it depends on the town who will replace that pole, but there is regular maintenance and tree trimming and pruning. That's always been somewhat challenging, and more challenging depending upon what community we're out trimming. But particularly we had seen right after Irene, we stepped up and allocated many more dollars to address tree trimming, and especially in those communities that we have had experienced pushback before.
Do you get any pushback from Wareham?
No, Wareham we feel pretty comfortable with. Our senior arborist, Paul Sellers, works very well here with the tree warden as well. So, and there are regular, maintenance roadways. Usually it's every 4 or 5 years, but we're seeing that because of the infestation of some of the caterpillars of some years ago, maybe 4 years ago, they've caused some trees to die much quicker. So we know that we've expended that many more dollars to address those, and some of those trees are on private properties that we've received permission from that homeowner to remove at our cost, because we don't want that to come in contact with our line. So we're constantly out there. From time to time you'll see blue ribbons around trees. Those are trees that are going to be coming down.
If somebody has an issue there a number, does that star have a number? Is
Yeah.
that who she would call to say, hey, I see some branches on my wires, or this tree, there's a group of trees here that could affect the wires?
Yes, you can.
'Cause they look at the person who lives there looks at those trees every day, right?
Sure, that's right, that's right.
they
And,
know when they're
and you would
dying.
know better than us, you know. I mean, I know we have, certain streets and regions and so forth that we patrol, but certainly the homeowner, the neighbor, is going to know best. So give our 800 number a call, which is 800-592-2000, or on a blue sky day, I'm your representative, Dennis Galvam. On a blue sky day.
Good day.
On a good day, on a regular day. When there are storms, I'm on the Cape. That's my area, Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. This region, Plymouth, to Wareham, up in Marshfield and so forth, it would be Mark Lucas, who I know the lieutenant has met with on numerous occasions.
We're talking about a blue day when the weather's nice.
That's right, and that would be my phone number. And my phone number would be 508-732-4206.
Is there so much trimming that you can do? Like, is there a reason why you don't cut back? Because it seems like they do so much trimming, and then you still have, like, the following year, the same problems with
Well,
branches.
yeah, it usually wouldn't be the same problem with the same tree. We can only cut back a certain amount of feet to the width of our lines. And it's expanded over the years as well, which is good. 8 feet on each side, 10 feet, 10 feet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Just to answer Sharon's question also very quickly, over the last year plus, I've noticed our area in particular, and probably other areas, that the power companies have had contractors coming in and clearing the tree areas out that they're allowed to clear. I mean, on Oak Street, as an example, we didn't have any branch or any tree knocker line down anywhere for the first time ever.
We have received an awful lot of feedback from some of the towns that are in the north, and there has been a number of articles in the Boston Globe in the fall about our aggressive tree trimming, but it's helped.
You take a beautiful maple, right? Nice red maple. You're driving down the road and you see these U cut into it. I mean,
It's rough. It's rough, I know.
People do complain.
I-
That person during a storm.
I have a couple in my
Maybe
neighborhood.
they can plug in-
I have a
But
couple
your
of,
lights are on.
yes.
Your
I
lights are
understand.
You know, in Carver, they're going through, what is that? What's that road that goes all the way down to Plymouth there?
Federal Furnace.
Federal Furnace, Tremont. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I get here.
Down there, you got some big U's cut out of those
Yeah.
trees down there.
Yeah.
Tremont.
That's right. Well, we have a big, some of those trees along 6A on the Cape are going to be coming down as well. So we have somewhat of a tree planting that'll be
It's
happening
cosmetics
as well.
versus public safety,
They don't go together, unfortunately.
Okay.
I just had a couple of things. It seems, and I guess this is more to our Director of Emergency Management, one of the issues really at the first day of the storm was just the uncertainty as to the shelter locations, and apparently some uncertainty as to whether we were going to be allowed to operate a shelter here. From what I'm hearing, we have an understanding of what the requirements are now that the state mandates in order for us to run a shelter. I guess what I'm looking at is a town that has a huge elderly population. We're a very vulnerable town in comparison to many of our neighbors that don't have as many elderly, that may be better off financially, don't have as many people living in tough circumstances already. Would it be possible to sort of prepare an outline detailing the requirements and our ability to meet those requirements to operate a shelter here? And do you think, Chief Stanley, is that something we should be thinking about?
Yes, in fact, we've had discussions at the station with a lot of our partners around the table. And what we're going to do is we're going to be making a presentation to the board, and we're going to give you the facts on what it would take. In fact, we have people who are going to go to a couple of classes to get that information, and then we can make a decision, and you can look at the cost associated. We've even thought about who could we get to assist with the cost,
right?
And partner with on a private basis, that they may come in, and some of our normal people who we always go to, it seems like we're gonna try to make that attempt. But once we have a real outline for you guys, then we're gonna bring it to the board, and then we can have that discussion.
You know, I think to comment on that statement, I think that based on what we've all talked about here, you have that plan and you're all working together and you're all sitting, and then when it comes to presenting, I would suggest that the next meeting, I was gonna get to this at the end, but I'll address it now. You know, maybe the next meeting we have is with all of us here, Mr. Sullivan, obviously, and the Wareham committee and the onset committee all get together. And we get a bigger room, obviously. This is nice because of the TV, so people can see it. We can clear a bunch more chairs, or we can meet somewhere else. But and then have the district groups there as well. The
Right.
elected officials is a district group. So everybody gets it at the same time. And then in terms of this public safety issue, we're working together because we have to. Not only at this table during the event, but in the planning and the preparation and the cost handling and all that stuff. We need to change. Instead of having three, we need to be working together on administratively, if you will, operationally, government-wise, right?
Mhm.
Is what I'm trying to say. So I think when you're ready to do that, the next step would be for all of us to meet. You know, we can get a camera if we need to find a room big enough.
We have an LAPC meeting, I talked to the chairman and vice chairman, meeting scheduled for March 21st.
Good.
Thursday, March 21st.
Okay.
To address some of these issues directly, just so you know.
Just, looking in the rearview mirror just briefly, a little bit longer. I did speak on, it was either Sunday or Monday, with somebody who had returned from the Fall River shelter. And I understand there was a lot of reticence on the part of many of the people in the shelter to go to Fall River. They think of Fall River, they think of gangs, they think of violence. I'm sure in terms of the shelter, they were probably thinking back to Katrina and the Superdome, and they didn't want to go to an urban environment. They didn't want to encounter urban problems there. But I was very pleased and heartened to hear back from several people that the shelter there was very well run. It was well staffed with police. There were EMTs, the Board of Health, the whole 9 yards. They were able to provide a lot more really than we were able to provide, and they were set up initially to provide all of those things, where the effort that we had downstairs here was kind of ad hoc. And I don't mean that by way of a criticism. Lieutenant Walchik, Mr. Ethier, Claire Smith, they all busted their butts for days to make sure that the people who stayed in that shelter were safe and taken care of and fed. And the same goes for the other Board of Health people, Suzanne, Dr. Amy. There was just an incredible effort went on. But I think we need to get the word out, and perhaps we could look into a reverse 911 system, a phone call, to tell people, come here if you have to get warm, but you can't stay here. You got to go somewhere else.
Right, and the system worked the way it was supposed to in that respect. What happened was, again, if the buses were here a little bit quicker,
Yeah.
that was a glitch, and MEMA felt bad about it, and they learned by it as well. But if the buses were here a little bit quicker, then they would have been moved to a regional shelter. And the regional shelter has all of those things you're talking about.
Right.
And they're lucky because they house all of the Red Cross vehicles over there. So they've got a little built-in relationship, you know?
Yep.
Rich Aguirre, the director there, was a personal friend of Chief Haskell of mine, and he has a garage full of Red Cross equipment. But it's precisely right. That's exactly why we wanted to send people there, because he said, I got 100 beds ready for you, John.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, we're staffed and ready as a Red Cross shelter properly. But I will note at the end of, as the storm went on, he did say, if you could provide me with an EMT, I'm going to need it. I'm going to need some staff because we're starting to lose staff here, just
Yep.
by note. And they
Yep.
also asked that in Bridgewater as well.
Well, nobody's resources are limitless.
Right.
But I want people to understand that, you know, regardless of what happened, which was this ad hoc shelter that arose out of circumstance and necessity, this isn't what we're really looking to do here. What we want to do is try to work possibly, as the chief suggests, to get a formal shelter set up. But until that happens, I want people to realize that Fall River is a good, safe place to go. You're not going to be harmed there. There are plenty of police officers running around. It's well secured. You'll be taken care of. There are cots for people to sleep on. It's much more comfortable than sleeping on a floor here. And that's really where you need to go. And the other thing is, I was thinking in terms of reverse 911 as well, is we don't get these storms often enough that they stay in our sort of collective consciousness, so that we think ahead of time of the things we need. You know, fill up the car, make sure the cell phone is charged, you know, get cash in case the stores can't take credit cards, things like that. And I was wondering if it might be possible through the reverse 911 system to have a reminder call to go out to people, just saying, okay, we've got a storm coming, think about these things, you know, here's a list of things you can do to prepare for the storm that might help you in the event that we lose power for a good long time. So it's just a thought. But anyway, you know, just to wrap up here, because I don't want to go too late. Thank you all for your efforts. It was really something to see. Very impressive.
Chief? Huh? You're all set. Yeah, you were raising your hand.
I just wanted to comment. But yeah, it's all nice that we're the expectations are to transport people out of town. Let's not forget that in our forward thinking, and that's what we do. That's what we're trained to do. That it's very unrealistic to have to transport people. It's very unsafe to expect to send people with a foot of snow in whiteout conditions in a bus or some means of transportation similar 30, 40 miles away. We're kidding nobody. So,
We did it.
absolutely, exactly. But I think, you know, collectively here, these are things that we're challenged with, and how can we serve the community better? So just as another offshoot of that is one thing I failed to mention. It's not often that the Wareham Fire District is put in a predicament such as this type of storm that presented itself to us. We actually went into what we call in the fire service condition red. Condition red meant that we couldn't provide aid outside of our community because we felt compelled to our citizens that all hands were on deck and we couldn't afford to render any services outbound. So and we went on for days in that diminished capacity, and we've had cases in the past due to big snowstorms that we couldn't get any inbound aid also. So we're taxed. Once again, we're trying to do more with less, and please provide us the support that we need in order to do our jobs but back to that forward thinking and try to solve these issues.
You know, just in the few minutes I was here, down, and you look around and you saw all these cots and people sitting around. It almost makes me, and I know there was some discussion. I'm going to ask you to elaborate on this with Dr. Rabinovich, I think. And I hope that we didn't fail to invite him, because I would feel real bad about that. I hoped he would be invited tonight. But this building, I think, is an issue as well. One, for the elevator.
Showers.
Size, right? I think at one point you guys were pretty much almost at capacity here. And if you really were a shelter, taking people from Buzzards Bay and Bourne and Falmouth, right? You need a bigger room to be a regional.
Yeah, the showers are a big issue too.
You know,
if you're multiple days,
and I thought one of you mentioned to me that there was some discussion with Dr. Rabinovich about using the schools. I think we talked to him on the phone about that.
About the middle school and the high school would be much more usable facility if we can get to the next step.
And that'll all come out when we have the LEPC meeting. We'll be discussing what the best location would be and what's needed. We're gonna have Mima in to talk about it, and
Because
then
I think if we're talking to them about this, and I think everybody sitting around this table kind of feels that, hey, we'd like to have a regional shelter
Absolutely.
here. Then obviously this building's not part of it, but you know, I think it would be great if we did.
And again, we were almost
And
there.
I'm sure there are funds. Yeah, we're almost.
We had, when they were here surveying properties and so forth, so we're putting the push
Did they
on.
survey this building, or did they survey the school?
We surveyed this building. One of the issues with the schools was flood zones.
Flood zone.
Yeah, the
And-
high
and one
school's
of
in a
the,
tough spot.
In
Yeah.
fact, one of the best places, believe it or not, in town is the Deacon School.
Oh.
The Deacon School on a Cat 5 hurricane is completely dry.
With no
Really?
showers, though.
And that was,
No shower facilities.
that's the problem. You talked to Kevin about that today.
See, I mean, believe me, we're trying to find the spot, and it's
We had the Red
difficult.
Cross, the last LEPC meeting, we actually had a Red Cross representative at the meeting. And I've already been in touch with Steve Napoli, who's the boss of Red Cross, for this area. So we're trying to put the push on this.
Tough to get one that they'll put their blessing on too, because they're putting a lot of resources in it. you know?
Right.
And again, you have to have all the legal hurdles covered as well. Well, I think it's great. Great conversation.
We need to build a garage so they can park their buses and things here, and we'll have anything we want.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Did I not find a building? Oh, that wasn't you I talked to about it. No, listen, thank you all very much for taking your time. I think this was a great comment. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Bowen?
Oh, no, sir.
Because you can feel free if you will. We did throw a couple of shots at lawyers, so if you want to.
I'm used to it.
Yeah. Is there a list of precautions that towns need to take on these certifications? Does the Good Samaritan law protect us in any way? That's a good question for you.
Well, you know what I'd be happy to do is, I've been working on a list of emergency measures that the
All right.
town can take in times of disaster. And I'll be happy to give you that list. It tells you where you have, I don't want to say carte blanche, but a lot of latitude that you wouldn't usually have.
Right. Good.
So
I
I'll
would
give you that.
appreciate that. That would be helpful. All right. Anything else? Thank you all very much, and thank your families.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to getting together here real soon. Oh, we got your thing.
Yeah.
Recorders. If it wasn't for that, we couldn't adjourn.
2 minutes.
Just a little.
It's gonna take 2 minutes. Where are you going? Oh.
the issue of the, if we could just have just a little bit quiet now. Yeah, digital recording policy 11-1, Mrs. Winslow.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I asked for this to be put on the agenda. There have been several times that I've gone into the Selectman's office to get a recorder, and I've run into chairman of committees or just the staff in the Selectman's office tells me that there are none available. So many chairs of the committees express frustration because they want to be in compliance with our policy. However, it's extremely difficult to be in compliance with our policy, especially when you consider that a number of people who either chair or clerk our committees are volunteers who have jobs outside of their volunteer commitment. So they have to go pick up a recorder. Often they use that recorder to transcribe their minutes, and then they have to return that recorder. And this is all supposed to be done over the course of just a couple days because there's a very finite number of recorders available. So my thought was that while I think that the purpose of the policy is good, that we suspend this policy until such time as we can work with Derek and the staff to ensure that the equipment is available in a timely manner and that chairs aren't forced to make decisions about whether or not to go ahead with a meeting when they have no way to record it or whether to cancel their meetings because they can't record it. And the other thing that I want to mention, although this is not the driving factor behind this, is that there really does not seem to be any anybody that knows what happens to the tapes, where they go, if they're being put on an electronic media, if they're getting uploaded to this stuff isn't happening. So I think we need to figure out how to make this work if this is what we want to do. But in the interim, I don't think it's fair to our volunteers of our committees to have a policy such as this that we ourselves can't fulfill the very basic part of it, and that is to provide them with a recorder and tapes. So that is why I asked you to put it on the agenda this evening, Mr. Chair. Well, I'd like to hear from other members of the board and how they feel. It could be like group therapy.
Well, okay. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Town Council, just for the public's edification, I guess, is there any requirement that the meetings of board committees or commissions be taped?
No, sir.
So if we were to vote to suspend this policy, so long as the boards, committees, or commissions themselves did keep a record of their activities in the form of minutes, we would still be complying with the law?
As long as they were taken in accordance with the open meeting law and the public records law, yes, sir.
Well then, having recently served as the clerk of the Dog Bylaw Study Committee and run into the frustration of no recorders myself, I believe we only have 4 or 5 tape recorders. We have over 20 boards, committees, and commissions in this town at any given time. I'm being signaled by somebody in the back of the room.
There's only 3 recorders.
3 recorders. I overestimated the number. So, again, 3 recorders for close to 24 bodies that need them. I don't think we can practically expect people to follow this policy with that limited number of recorders. So I would be in favor of suspending this until we can figure out how to do it right.
This particular policy originated because of me. That's the best way to put it, way back in 1101. So obviously, my feeling would be pretty straightforward on it. The idea was that anything said at a meeting would be available for anybody to look at, but the way the open meeting law is written, we basically have that provision anyways because the minutes should cover everything. So I have no problem either way.
Well, Mr. Chair, do you have a comment or?
I do. I actually, I support the policy of recording. I think that I know we do it. We have a meeting in the private sector. We use different equipment, different tools. Very easy for the clerk or the scribe to go back and check actual comments or statements if they're writing up notes on a particular subject. We're dealing with a bunch of volunteers here. And if I want to know what happened at the affordable housing, the fire alarm committee, 6 months ago, and they still haven't turned in the minutes, I can at least ask for the tape of that night, because the tape was really only designed, my initial support was that the tape would be available until the minutes are voted on and accepted by that committee. So many committees they don't even turn the minutes in.
Nor do they turn in the tapes.
So my point is that I think it's a worthwhile policy, and we should, whatever it takes to fix it. I don't think I need to volunteer to fix tapes and recorders. I think that we can let Mr. Sullivan know that we want our policy carried out, and he needs to come back with a plan. We have a policy. We're always told we don't have policies. We have one. He needs to carry it out.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think
I'm not in favor of rescinding the policy.
I didn't.
I think the policy is good. Now, I think the one part we need to look at, though, is the storage. Because, to me, once the minutes are accepted, they're accepted. I'm not too much of a fan of the storage thing.
Well, Mr.
But I am a fan of the recording until the minutes are accepted by the group and turned in.
Just to be clear, I'm not asking to rescind the policy. I'm asking to suspend the policy so that we can sit with Mr. Sullivan and figure out how it's going to work, all these pieces of it, because none of it is really some of it can't be complied with. When the chairman goes to the office and they find out there's no recorder and they've got a meeting that night, they're either not in compliance with our policy or they're forced to cancel.
Can you put a timeline on it? I'm not in.
I don't.
Just to suspend until suspending is good and feels good, but what? When?
I don't know.
April 1st? That gives them a month?
60 days will be fine.
I mean, come on, we're talking about tape recorders.
Well, these gentlemen are saying it's 2 months, 60 days.
60 days, we'll get it done.
Well, we've got.
Whatever the majority of the board feels, but I don't think you should pass a motion to suspend a policy without a reenactment date. Get it done.
60 days.
This could sit out there for years without somebody doing the.
Well, I mean, we need Mr. Sullivan
Right.
in order to, because, to buy, we need at least another up to 10 recorders, and that's going to run us some,
Well, I think you give him the job. It's his job to do it, and let him do the research on it. Yeah, like I say, there are many better ways to record meetings today than tape recorders. So I think you let him look at it and let him do his job and give him a date certain to come back. And I support that.
So I'll make a motion that that the board will temporarily suspend policy 11-01, which is digital recording, and we will ask Mr. Sullivan to bring us a plan by which the policy can be enforced. The board reserves the right to make amendments to the policy, including the storage piece, and this shall be done no later than, we'll say, April 30th, which is a Tuesday night.
Second.
2 months.
Motion made and seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 4-0-0.
Does anybody have any liaison reports, or are we?
I need permission of the board to. I have a issue with attendees. On one of the I received an email complaining about attendance. I need the board's permission to accept the notification letter from the chairman of the board and send out certified letters.
Motion so made.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 400. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
Not
Mr.
yet.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bowen,
Too quick.
anything, any enlightening words for the town? Mr. Slavin, I'm sorry.
I'll be real quick. The FinCom met last week. Just very quickly, they had a discussion on the Volk School and funding. The superintendent will be coming before the FinCom to talk about the hard details. Probably will be around the 15th of March approximately. Board of Selectmen probably would be good if some of us are present for that. David Moore came before them also, talked about the ISO rating and where our rating is right now. The snow budget as of that date was $106,000 over, just for a point there. And there was a question about the police generator, which has already been talked about today. And I think there was an issue also in veteran services, which we can't control. That's trending upward dollar-wise, and we may have some issues there as well. And they're expecting, I think you're going to discuss a meeting, I think, this coming Saturday.
Yeah, I was just going to, you made me.
Nothing was finalized. They were waiting to hear on that.
On this coming Saturday morning, beginning at 8 a.m., we will be meeting here in this room with the Finance Committee. Invitations went out today to all or anyone who hasn't seen one. On Saturday morning, 8 a.m., we're going to be reviewing all of the town meeting articles. Both boards sitting here together. Hopefully we'll get the square fixed. In the spirit of my meeting. And any citizens, please start to come in at 8 o'clock. I asked Janet not to give you a specific time. There will be department heads here. Mr. Sullivan will have his team ready for theirs. If a citizen comes in and they have an article, we'll take that citizen up to the table here, get that article done so that they can stop in, do their business, and leave, and then I'll have to sit here for hours to get through those citizen articles. Mr. Boone, will you be here Saturday as well? Yes, you will. I thought you were. What a guy. 8 o'clock's not too early for you, is it? Okay, yeah, good. Anyone would like to attend, it's an open meeting. There'll be seats here. And then item 2 on the agenda is a meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee where we're talking about the budget. Budget questions, issues prior to town meeting.
Oh, I don't know if this comes in, should come in by way of liaison report or if you would like this as a formal agenda item, but Selectman Slavin and I, about 2.5 weeks ago, did attend a meeting in Taunton with Mass DOT regarding the Cranberry Highway project. I don't know if you want to formalize it by way of an agenda item
why
or...
don't we do that? That
Yeah.
way you can go into detail and have a discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Next week, all right? You got everything, or you need more? DOT. DOT, Department of Transportation, 628 corridor for next week, the 5th.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye, aye,
Opposed? Thank you very much. It was a great night. I hope you all enjoyed the public safety folks that were here. We look forward to taking this to the next level. Thank you very much.